Before we start, I want you all to ask yourself a question. Do you consider yourself to be in a healthy mental state? Now, I'll wait a second to let you dig deep and be completely honest with yourself. In my opinion, I think that no one is completely psychologically healthy throughout their whole life, not even psychologists. It seems to me that one of the things that puts people in a bad mood is comparing themselves to others. Theodore Roosevelt once said, "Comparison is the thief of joy," and I wholeheartedly agree with him. I'm a person who really likes to compare myself to others because I want to know if I'm lagging behind. I have found that this actually doesn't motivate me much, and comparisons frequently cause me stress and anxiety. Maybe many of you are like me in this regard, where this has negatively affected your mental state. My tendency is to end feeling inferior and losing confidence as a result. And I blame all of you, because you are also fantastic and make it hard to measure up. The fact is that all of us have varying degrees of anxiety, worry, and fear about the results of comparing ourselves. This mental hamster wheel more or less shapes our attitude and way of thinking in life. For example, before presenting here today, I have memorized my script and rehearsed it in many times. However, I haven't been able to sleep well these past few nights, dreaming that I forgot my words on stage and then waking up in the cold sweat, only to realize that it was just a dream. For the past few days, whether in class or eating, every few hours I would nervously open my speech and read through it to see if I had memorized it completely. Needless to say, I've been extremely anxious since the start of February, fearful that I would make a fool of myself on stage or that someone else's speech will be better than mine, while worrying that I won't live up to my own expectations. This fear of not measuring up stems from a deep-seated desire to prove myself, to affirm my efforts, and to have my hard work recognized. I constantly compare myself to others, not from an ego perspective, but because I truly desire to excel and love to be recognized for my contributions. Comparing ourselves to others is a natural human behavior. It is part of how we define and understand ourselves. At one point or another, everyone has compared themselves to others, such as grade point average, job title, income, appearance, number of Instagram followers, and the list goes on and on. I once ran in the 400-meter race and was in the first place for the first 200 meters. Guess what? I ended that race dead last. On the last turn, I was too afraid of the others passing me. My inner turmoil, my worst enemy, made me glance back at the people behind me, and I wondered how far they had to go before they passed me. Because I was looking backwards, I lost my balance while running and almost fell down. Lots of lessons need to be learned from this one. Social comparison theory, developed by psychologist Leon Festinger, delves into the complexity of human social behavior and the basic need for self-evaluation by comparing yourself to others. The theory's central assumption is that individuals are driven by innate desire to evaluate themselves by comparing their abilities, opinions, and emotions to those of their peers. Festinger divides social comparisons into two main types: upward social comparisons, in which individuals compare themselves to those who are perceived to be superior in certain aspects, and downward social comparison, where individuals seek affirmation by comparing themselves to those who are considered less fortunate or accomplished. The theory suggests that these comparative assessments can serve as a means for individuals to reduce their uncertainty about their status in a social group, validate their beliefs, and enhance self-esteem. It's a natural human behavior that affects our self-perception. But as I've witnessed in my own experiences, it can be damaging to our own mental health. The human mind often engages in upward social comparisons, in which individuals compare themselves to those who are perceived to be more successful, thus creating a permanent cycle of self-doubt and stress. For my generation, social media has exacerbated these comparisons, as individuals share and curate only the most positive aspects of their lives, fostering unrealistic standards of comparisons. What we often don't realize is that these comparisons are only selective glimpses into the lives of others. They don't give a full picture of their struggles, insecurities, or the journey they've traveled. From my epic failure in the 400-meter race, I realized that my obsession with comparing myself to others is affecting my mindset and held me back in my efforts to succeed. So, why don't we change our perspective to compare our current selves with our past selves? If it only was that easy. However, this shift in focus allows us to measure our own personal growth and development. Instead of fixating on external benchmarks, we could reflect on our own personal growth, the challenges we've overcome, and the progress we've made over time. This shift in mindset is not one of complacency, but of recognition and appreciation for the journey we have embarked on. So, for my future races, both the literal and symbolic ones, my goal is the finish line. I've sworn to never be disturbed by anyone else again, and we'll see how long that lasts. For now, I've succeeded in ignoring the presence of others and imagining that I'm alone on the track. My only determination is to get to the finish line, to surpass my old self and achieve a new personal best. I'm sure I'm not the only person in this world who is plagued by this annoyance. My experience might not be related to you all, but in fact, numerous studies have confirmed the detrimental effect of social comparisons has on mental health. Judith White wrote a fantastic article titled Frequent Social Comparisons and Destructive Emotions and Behaviors, The Dark Side of Social Comparisons, in which she and other professors explored the effects of social comparisons on self-esteem in different demographic contexts. The findings reveal that for people who frequently compare themselves to others, the likelihood of experiencing envy is nearly 50%, guilt over 40%, and regret and dishonesty to protect oneself or others' feelings, each over 30%, illustrating the significant emotional toll of social comparisons. The study also revealed a consistent pattern. People who habitually compare themselves upward have lower self-worth and report less satisfaction with their life because they're constantly compared to people who are superior to them. They often feel inferior. People who are accustomed to comparing themselves downward are more satisfied with their life. Downward comparisons may seem harmless and even healthy, but they, too, have serious implications. When we focus too narrowly on the negative attributes of others, we may miss the full picture of their strengths and successes, which can inhibit our own personal growth and lead us to arrogance, and at worst, discrimination. That's why I encourage all of you to take a step back from the constant race of comparisons. This is not to eliminate comparisons entirely, but to recast them as a tool for self-improvement rather than a source of stress and anxiety. The famous Chinese writer Yang Jiang said, 永远不要把自己的快乐与悲伤放在和他人的比较中. Never put your happiness and sadness in comparisons with others. Believe that your life journey is unique, and success is your personal, ever-changing concept. By comparing yourself to your past self, you'll find a more satisfying path to progress, one that fosters self-love, compassion, resilience, and a healthier state of mind. There will always be someone better than you. On this road scattered with imagined roadblocks, the only thing that you should focus on is surpassing your yesterday self. Thank you.